saga. Let me just call it a saga. It has been on and off, and we know that a lot has been said about it. People, what is my guarantee that as a Kenyan I'll get my house at the end of the day? Who will be getting these houses? Is it for everyone? Is it for some chosen few? All these questions will be answered today on Know Your Law. And I am not doing this alone. I have a couple of experts who are here to really dwell on that topic, and they're going to answer these questions. And if you have any questions, remember ABN TV across all social media platforms. That is where you can find me, that is where you can find us, and that is where we can indeed find an answer to your question. Now I would allow them to introduce themselves. First of all, they are advocates of the High Court of Kenya. They're here in their own right. They'll tell us more about what they do, where they work, and if they're not in EBN TV, where else can we get them? And then we'll be back more to dwell light on what we'll be tackling. So welcome. I'll start with the gentleman on my immediate right. You can introduce yourself, tell us your name and what you do. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you for this opportunity. The brief, my name is Theophilus Matundura. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, currently practicing at TMM and Partners Advocates, which is a law firm located in Upper Hill. We also have a company called Sharia Online, which focuses on access to justice and likes. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here to talk about affordable housing.
Thank you. Welcome, Theophilus. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Mwoka. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I also practice at TMM and Partners Advocates, and at a boutique law firm offering various legal services. And as my fellow learned friend just said, I'm also run a legal tech startup called Sharia Online, and essentially we promote access to justice and access to legal information, and that is actually part of the reason why we're here, to promote access to information in terms of the Affordable Housing Act, which was recently enacted, which was recently assented into law by His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Covers up. So let me start perhaps with you, Robert. Tell me, what do you understand by the term affordable housing levy, as it is known on ground?
So I think it would be important to take the viewers through the history of the affordable housing levy, right? So it we go back to last year, 2023, around the enactment of the Finance Act, which is where we find the genesis of the affordable housing levy, right? So in the Finance Act, by virtue of, I believe, Section 84, it sought to introduce an act, an amendment to the Employment Act, more specifically Section 31D, introducing an affordable housing levy, and this would be charged to employers and employees. And so after they passed it, Senator Mkio Mutata, Senator for Busia County, went to court and challenged the same, and it was declared unconstitutional by a 3-court bench of High Court judges. And part of the reason was that it was not anchored under law, as there was no legal framework to guide its implementation. And number 2 was it was discriminatory, as it did not factor in people from the informal sector as well as the self-employed. It only focused on employer and employees. So come then Parliament to the picture. Parliament decided to enact to start by passing the affordable housing bill. And the bill sought to introduce the levy we're talking about right now, right? And as you've heard, it was recently assented into law by the President on, I believe, the 19th of March this year. So that's the genesis of the affordable housing levy. So why? To trace the why, you have to go back to, sorry for that. To trace the why, you have to go back to the previous regime, the Uhuru Ruto government, and under the Big Four agenda, there was the affordable housing program, right? That was part of it. And essentially, this levy is to finance. For the viewers, I think they need to understand what a levy is. And a levy essentially is it's something that is taxed on, it's not a tax, but it's equivalent to a tax, but for a specific purpose. So in this case, it was for housing, affordable housing, or financing affordable housing programs, as per the manifestos of the various regimes, right, that have come into power or that have been in power. Currently, there's the bottom-up economic transformative agenda, better, and part of it was to construct 1 million houses across Kenya, affordable housing units, right? So this is now the genesis of that, right? So once the president entered into power, he had to implement the same and materialize it, and that's why he went to parliament. They passed it through the Finance Act, which is declared unconstitutional, and then Parliament formed passed the Affordable Housing Amendment Act. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe to you, Theophilus, tell us how is it the local mwananchi? Is all this back and forth good or confusing? Because one time we hear it's back to the courts, the other time we hear it's going through. How has it been all this back and forth?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, for the local Mwananchi, I think, people are at loggerheads because housing is a problem. It's a problem in the country. We find that access to affordable and adequate housing, which is a right under Article 43 of our Constitution, is still a far-fetched dream. And that's why, as Robert has rightly said, the previous regime and the current one have really focused housing as part of their agenda. Now, this can't just happen in a laguna. There has to be some regulations in place to sort of to oversee or operationalize this. And that's why the courts rightly ruled that there has to be laws. They can't just operate one day, set up a levy which is not anchored in law. That's why we have this act. And this act, when we look through it, we see that it's actually it has a positive outlook. Yeah, it has that promise of yes, people might have these savings. They may contribute this 1.5% monthly of their gross salary or their gross income. They contribute this amount. Then there's an application procedure. When you read through the act, it has an application procedure that provides for people who are actually interested in the listed properties that the government has done as per se. And I think Robert has touched on it. This is part of the government's agenda, and it's a progressive agenda since it's an economic and social right. So this is something that has to be progressively realized. It's not just something that will happen in a year or so. It has to take several years and several planning, a lot of planning rather. So for the local Mwananchi, it is a good tug and turn. It is a good tough war because the government is actually trying to see how we can go to the local person and provide for the houses. And also just to add, the act in itself, although we'll delve into it, has segmented classes of housing. There's the social housing, there's the affordable housing, there's the affordable middle income housing, and there's the rural social housing. So there's those 4 structures which cater for various people, levels of incomes of families, from 0 to 20, 20 to 140, or over 140, and also the people in the rural areas. Yeah.
All right, back to you, Robert. Is this not discriminating in that, what there are people out here, especially now that we're dealing with the bottom up, we are taking 1.5% out of those who are working. What about those who are not working, or they don't have really, their salaries are not really taxable, and then they still want to obviously live in affordable houses? What about them? How does this levy cater for them?
Thank you for that question. It's a really brilliant question. And just to answer, so like I mentioned earlier in the history of the formation of the act or the law, part of the reason it was declared unconstitutional was it was one, discriminatory, because it was just taking into account employer and employees while not factoring in the self-employed, as well as just the people in the informal sector, right? So Parliament sought to take care of this mischief by introducing a clause as Theo said, as we delve into the Act. So these are some of the provisions of the Act. I believe it's around Section 5, whereby it calls for employers and employees are also considered, as well as people who are gainful or people who gain other income from other sources. So you're supposed to deduct or to declare these deductions to KRA via the iTax portal every 9th, I believe, of every month. So essentially it's operational and it's taking into account both the people who are employed and employees, as well as people who are working for self-gain. Yeah.
So that means if I have my small business, or not even a business, if I'm maybe a daily, I'm being paid daily, like I receive wages, not salary, that is, whatever money I have, I can still pay it, like directly to KRA, and it will still cater for the affordable house.
Yeah, essentially that's what it provides for. And just to go back to Theo's point in terms of the classes, so the classes are based on income, right? So I think the minimum is what? The social housing program, right? Because there are various programs provided for under the Act. So for the social housing program, it takes care of the people who are below 20,000, right? That band. Yeah. So 0 to 20,000, and then it's provided for that. So they'll be eligible to social housing programs if they deduct, and then they also prove that they're contributing to a social housing scheme that's part of a social housing program. Number 2 is the middle class, which is, I believe, from 20,000 to 149,000. So that's a different band, right? So they're supposed to be deducting. People whether earn that in salary or wages, or like the example you've given. And essentially they'll be eligible to middle income houses, right? Where the rent would be around 50 to 140K, right? So, and then there are the people who are above that, which is now the upper middle class. That's a different, all these are housing programs that will be implemented. So for the upper middle class, if you're deducting that, you'll be eligible to the house, a house under the program. And so, and then there's now the rural, people in the rural communities, right? So this is why also in the implementation of the Act recognizes the role county governments play, right? Because under the 8th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya, it provides that housing is a county government function, not a national government function, right? So taking that into account, the Act provides for how the county government will implement the rural housing schemes, because it's in rural, right? It's not in urban centers, yeah. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, you have answered it quite well. So let me throw this to you, Theo. In terms of the owning of the houses, because if I remember well, it was you pay rent, and at the end of the day, you will own that house. For how long, or how reliable is this claim, and what is the guarantee that you need at the end of a certain period of time, at the end of this given period of time, that house will be yours indeed?
Okay, so when we look at the Act primarily sets up what we now know as the Affordable Housing Board,
yes,
which is a board which has a perpetual succession. It has its own legal personality. It can own property and will have employees. So this board will be constituted by various people in the government, in the ministries, the principal secretaries, the cabinet secretaries, and appointees by the president and the likes. It will have a composition of various, a lot of people. So this board, ideally, what will happen is this levy is being collected. Yeah? As Bobby had explained, a levy is it's not a tax because it has a specific function, and this one is specifically for housing. So all this money that will be collected and channeled through to KRA, which is mandated to collect money on behalf of the government. So once this money is collected, see, we have now the Affordable Housing Board. The board, one of its primary functions is to coordinate and operate and manage the Affordable Housing Fund, which is a fund that is established under the Act. So this fund primarily, it's like the liquidity pool for housing for Kenya. So this liquidity pool for housing, this every 1.5 that is collected from an individual will be collected by KRA and channeled through the fund through through the board. So primarily the board is managing this fund. They will have an office, a registered office. They'll have protocols and everything. That's why I was talking about it being progressive. It's something that will take some time. It will take a few years for you to actually see employees of the board or something of the sort of having officers of them running programs, because they'll be primarily the one leading the charge in this affordable housing initiative. So you're asking how will the person be protected? So this fund, it's when you look at the act, it has to follow the guiding principles of the Public Finance Management Act, which provides that funds which are collected, such as a levy, should be used for that intended or that specific purpose. So they cannot deviate and, let's say, try and use that fund for something different. It has to specifically be for housing and for the bandwidth that has been given the four classification. And also now another aspect is the board will primarily function to promote and protect and, let's say, inform the general public. Let's say these are regulations that will be put in place by the cabinet secretary because it's progressive. But one of the regulations that will be put in place is that application process. But when you look at the act, it just briefly states that for one to get a house, they will apply to the board. Once they apply to the board, they will fill up the requisite forms. And then once you fill up the requisite forms, you have to establish that you've actually been paying this 1.5%, which will act as a deposit. It won't be the final amount. It will act as a deposit for you to actually to qualify. Once you qualify is when, let's say, they go through their application process and their vetting processes. Then once you're accepted, you finish paying off the amount that is left, then you get your certificate of ownership, which will be in this term sectional property, which is also a recent legislation under our laws.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Robert. I would ask, why is it mandatory and yet there are people who are comfortable without having a house? For example, somebody might be somewhere and is like, I've already been to my houses, I'm living well, I don't need an extra house. So why is the government taking this 1.5% away from me?
So like Theo said, we have to go back to the Constitution, and more specifically the Bill of Rights, and Article 43 on the right to affordable and adequate housing. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right? And so like Theo also said, it's an economic and social right that is progressively realized. And so as part of the government in charge of the government of the day, they have to, because at the end of the day, they have to adhere to the Constitution. And part of it is, they're providing or ensuring that citizens of Kenya have access to adequate and affordable housing, right? And accessible as well. So this is part of the policy that they took, or the road they took, in terms of financing the affordable housing, or how will you manage this? Because at the end of the day, all the Bill of Rights aspirations are supposed to be realized. So, for example, rights of an arrested person, they're supposed to be respected. So, right for affordable housing is that have to take a different approach and have to get the money somewhere. And remember, the housing levy is just one of the many ways that the government is using to finance some of its infrastructural projects, right? But it's just that the levy is just specifically for housing, affordable housing. But I'm sure they'll be complemented by, World Bank or development institutions, depending on how the program progresses. So naturally, they took, they figured that the easiest way or the smartest way in their case would be to institute a housing levy to finance this, right? Because there's been a lot of talk about countries like Singapore and those the Asian tigers, as they're called, relying on themselves to lead to the economic and social realization of their various rights, right? So for me, I'm looking at it like from that point of view, It's gone to court, the discriminatory part. And yeah, I totally understand what you mean by people who already have housing. They don't see the need for that. But remember, this is not targeted towards them. It's targeted to the other members of the community who cannot afford affordable housing. As I told you early on the various classes, so this would be the social schemes, right? The people who are in slums. Because as part of the fund, I think Theo should also delve into the fund, because the fund provides for various institutions that can implement it, right? The implementing agencies that have been provided for. And of key is the Kenya, there's a slum fund or a slum trust. But essentially, it's a trust or a body corporate that has been formed to transform the slums, right? Because people in slums can't enjoy Article 43, affordable, accessible housing, right? So they're the target the intended targets for that. Because you can imagine if there are, those people who are living in those houses, what happens? Crime can increase, or you don't know the effects of, rapid urbanization. And, the population is expected to grow in the coming years. I think already at 50 plus. And the African youth, especially the Kenyan youth, we're a lot, right? And that's people under 35. So either way, you need a place to stay, right? So that's the rationale. The rationale is, obviously, if you're making the law, you can't please everyone, but this is the intended goal, is to provide affordable and adequate housing by 2030 for the growing population to meet that demand, considering urbanization and all. Yeah.
Why do you think there is a huge uproar against affordable housing levy?
So for me, I think it's more of people need to understand, like how Theo has explained, in terms of, because I feel like people don't really understand it. So there's a lot of civic, such platforms such as this, a lot of civic engagement that is needed at the grassroots level, where you talk to people, because I've mentioned all those classes. So there are social, people who for social housing projects. So it's going to people, to slums like Kibera, Madare, and informing them and, telling them about this, as well as for the upper middle class, as well as the middle class as well, because they're all eligible. And like I said, it doesn't hurt to own another house.
True.
Yeah.
True. Theo, let me ask about especially the land process. It is right now a huge bone of contention, especially where the areas where these affordable houses will be built, that some people have to be relocated, some people have to be chased out, some people have to be, the land, the whole project needs land. And as it is right now, people are already settled on those lands. What is the cover that the Constitution or the Act in itself is providing that will assist these people who are already living to be well settled?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah, I'm sure the property that is required is a lot of land, and some of these land may have inhabitants or people who dwell in them. Yeah, so I believe for government, if government compulsory acquires your land, there's something called compulsory acquisition under our land laws. So this is whereby let's say there's a project that needs to pass through your property, and you have to be relocated. So there's a way that you are relocated using the National Land Commission. So the National Land Commission actually computes this process and relocates your actual dues before, and the laws provide that you're compensated before the project starts. So you get your money before project starts. Yeah. However, for people who may not have proof of ownership or title, that may be a bit tricky, because there are grounds for them being displaced every day. It's unfortunate, but it's something that happens. If someone, and for the Act, it provides that if this piece of property has been demarcated or delineated for an affordable housing project, there are various procedures that will be done for the Affordable Housing Board to actually take that property as public land and develop it. Also, when you say affordable housing, it also captures institutional houses, like these ones for TVETs, you know, the houses there. So this is also will be the ambit of the affordable housing project. Also, just to add, not everyone will pay affordable housing. There are some exemptions in the Act, especially whereby you can justify that you have already paid income. If, let's say, you have capital gains tax, or let's say income derived out of a property, and you've already paid for this particular tax, you can apply for an exemption from getting payment, from paying this 1.5 that will be levied, because that will be a bit of a double taxation. Yeah. So there are some areas where you can actually avoid paying this tax by justifying to carry that you have paid for your taxes.
So perhaps still on the same, what would you say to someone who's watching you right now and they feel like, I personally have nowhere else to go? Case in point, in Makadara constituency, there has been a huge land row about the owners saying that the land belongs to them, right? Now the government wants to take that. Then there's this other side who are living in government houses, and now the government wants to destroy those houses. Now, those living within those houses, is there anything provisional for them as per that act that will save them? Either they be relocated to somewhere else, or they be given other houses?
I think that's a brilliant question, and I think this would be a perfect opportunity for this newly constituted board to pick their brains and find a way, because primarily this would be their role. These are such eventualities that would be foreseen, because you may want to upscale various houses. Because I believe a big part of our housing in Nairobi are actually these affordable housing projects that were done years ago. So upscaling would actually be a benefit. However, for individuals who have direct ownership, that would be a tricky scenario. But for the ones which are still in government ownership, they have to find a way to come up with operational frameworks, even if it is to give them, let's say, first priority basis in accessing these houses. Because I get your point. Someone may be living there for decades, just wake up, they may not have anywhere to go. So they may try to look into such areas or relocation. But I think the ideal aspect would be to try and focus on the barren parts first, and have at least some units which are working, and then if it's an issue of relocation, to upscale the existing ones, that would be something that they could work on. Also, for this, I forgot to add, for this affordable housing project, they want to make it really hard for it to be a business. So they've limited the ownership to be in such a way that it should be a natural person. It can't be a company coming to buy the property, and also reselling the property would be a tall order. You can't buy it and resell it. It should be one person, one house kind of thing. And for you to be able to resell the main stringent, you'd have to apply to the board and get certain approvals after justifying your case. It should be run on a case-by-case basis. So they're really trying to make it one person or one family, one unit.
Oh, amazing. Robert, back to you. Let me ask about the same margin of people, those who are the lower class, the common wananchi, or according to Dr. Ruto's manifesto, the hustler. How do they get hands on this project once it's done, once the building has been built? On what basis will they choose? You go first, you wait, we finish this one. What will qualify someone to get into the house?
Thank you for that question. And it's like I said earlier on the various investment schemes. So this category of people, But you know, they say the hustlers are also rich, so
Yeah.
it could be either the rich or the poor, but I'm assuming you're making the people on the bottom
Yeah.
down, right? So for me, I'd say they fall within the social upgrading, social affordable housing, and the social category, because there are 4 categories. There's the social housing upgrading, there's the middle class, and there's upper middle class, and there's the rural. So this would be the social, and this would be, it fall between the bracket of 0 to 20,000
Yes.
Kenya shillings. So for me, how to do with the own a house, from the Act, provides for that you're supposed to deduct a 1.5% levy
Yes.
for at least 1 year.
Yes.
So with, I think it's on every 9, right? So if they're supposed
Of
to do
every
that
month,
for
yeah.
1 year, so they can be eligible to apply as Theo said. And that's the first, to qualify to apply for that. So you have to be saving, and also you have to prove that you've been participating or you've been investing in a affordable housing scheme, right? A similar housing scheme of the same nature. And I'm sure they're there because the Act envisions people who would be deducting the levy would also be contributing to an affordable housing scheme.
Yeah.
So this would probably be that the deposit that Theo is referring to that you're paying. So once you've reached a certain amount and you qualify, then you can get access to the unit and pay the full amount and be eligible. Yeah.
No, let me rephrase the question.
Sure.
Who chooses who goes first? Right now that it is a levy, everybody is getting the card. So who chooses who goes first?
For me, I'd say the system. And this, the ITAC system, the electronic system. Because like I said, if you're deducting it online, right?
Yes.
So there would be a lot, like I said, a lot of information needed. People would have to go to the ground, because these people would have to access computers, they'd have to open ITAX accounts to be eligible, because you can't fill out papers and take them to KRA. You know what I'm saying? So that's part of like the mass, awareness that is needed. And we need to put Huduma centers in such areas, or they can access such, Huduma related services, including ITAX, and be able to, deduct their 1.5% and pay it. And that's a tall order, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, to those who feel like the housing levy, the affordable housing levy, was Ruto's, what is it called? Ruto was pushing it down people's throat, that it is unconstitutional, that it is Ruto being a dictator, it was dictatorial. Yes, that was the word I was looking for. That this was dictatorial and it was just an order from Ruto. And even the fact that it went through parliament, it went because Ruto wanted it to go through the parliament. What would you say?
I don't like playing politics. But just to answer your question, for me, it's more of a historical question. So it's just understanding the history of, like I said earlier on the affordable housing program, and just its evolution through. So for me, I'd say I first came across it in the second term for the Ruto regime, and during the manifesto, in the big four, there was a big four agenda, right? And part of it was housing, right? That aimed to construct, I think, 1 million or around that number of affordable housing units in 5 years, right? So that's the genesis of that, and that's part of the manifesto. And for me, I'd say it was a smart manifesto then, because like you said, it was an attainment of the Article 43 on accessible and affordable housing. So if you're going to sell to Kenyans your vision, you tell them, I'll construct houses for you, and you'll be able to own them, right? Then they'll be affordable, right?
Of course.
You understand the rationale. So then you see the same in the second, and actually it was on both parties and both teams. I think it was what's the called?
The what?
There's the Kenya Kwanza, and the Kenya Kwanza and both the Raila-led brigade.
Okay, Azimio.
The Azimio,
Azimio, it's okay.
So Azimio, it was both in the manifestos that there would be a levy, because it was already, that was the only way you could finance it. Like I said, what is a levy? Viewers rather need to understand what a levy is. And a levy is it's a charge that's deducted from, in this case, your salary or your income at 1.5%, and it will go directly for financing housing projects. And this is affordable housing projects across Kenya. And now for this regime, like I said, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, part of it was to construct 1 million houses, right? So they adopted the part of the Big Four, and this is how they are going to finance it, via levy. Because they're already collecting taxes, and taxes can go to general, to infrastructural projects such as roads, railway, airports, building manufacturing plants.
Yeah.
So that's what taxes are used for. But a levy will specifically be used for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
And in this instance, to finance affordable housing projects. So that's how we ended up where we are.
All right.
Yeah, it's just understanding the history.
To you, Theo, maybe for someone who thinks that the government should have done this, the government is rich and should have done this without taxing us, without taking the levy from us, what would you say?
I'd say we're a developing nation.
We're not there yet.
So it's a challenge, especially with all the loans that our government has been taking out. So collection of these levies, we have to be smart on how to be able to supplicate the needs or the requirements of the nation. So I think it's a bold move. I don't know if it will work because operationalization is another key.
Yeah.
As I said, it's progressive and things don't always progress. So it's a good initiative, I think so. However, not everyone may want houses. Not everyone may want to contribute 1.5%. And it's with a very large informal sector and with lack of clear guidelines on how, as you said, who will get the selection will be rolled out. It's quite a challenge. However, I'm sure if this new entity, the board, the Affordable Housing Board, will be well structured, they may have some solutions for us.
Okay, awesome. And I think that's it for today. If you have any questions on affordable housing, this is a huge topic. We can do this over and over and over again. There's still a lot to be covered on this particular topic, but that's all we had time for today. And maybe I will allow our guests to say maybe a few words, maybe the parting shot, starting with you, Robert.
For me, I just advise the viewers to look at the Act. It's available online, and just to empower themselves about the provisions of the Act, and to contact us at Advocates. We are TMM and Partners Advocates. You can reach out to us via social media, which is on LinkedIn, TMM and Partners Advocates, as well as Sharia Online, which is on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And also we have an online platform that you can Google, Sharia Online.co.ke. And you can contact us there. You can book an appointment with us and schedule a meeting, and we can help you resolve your legal issues. So,
thank you. Yes, Theo.
Yeah, I was just thank you for the time. And as you said, know your law. You should read up on the laws and just to be abreast of what is happening. And feel free to contact us in case of any legal queries you have to solve.
And just a final question I have to ask as we close. Paying the 1.5% is legal, right?
Yeah, no.
It stands
we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait till the 29th of April.
So operationalization, the Act envisions. So in Acts of Parliament, there's a transitional clause, and it envisions that it will be, I think, on 29th of April. But essentially, the government, I think the minister was saying, wants to backtrack it. But the law does not work retrogressively, it works progressively. So I'd advise our viewers to, until the 29th, to familiarize themselves.
Take your time.
Take your time.
All right.
But just know it will be implemented, and it's coming, it's here. And just familiarize yourself and how you can benefit from it, because also reliefs. There's also tax exemptions for people who contribute to the scheme. So like you said, there's a lot you can talk about. So we couldn't have the time.
All right. Yes, I promise you we'll do this again. So watch out for Affordable Housing Part 2. It's coming soon and sooner than maybe you expect. But that's all we had time for you today. My name is Consolata Chibalonza. I had Robert Mwaka with me, as well as Theophilus. I will not try to say your second name. I'll totally mess. Theophilus and Robert Mwaka were here with us today. It was an amazing discussion. In case you found us along the way, then EBN TV across all social media platforms. We were live on Facebook as well as YouTube. In case you found us, you can also go back there, check it out, and see what you can ask. And then those questions shall be used for Affordable Housing Part 2. This is Know Your Law, ABN TV. Consolata Chibalonza. Until next time, God bless.